if we're live, then we'll just get right into it. So I want to get going with the conversation because I had posted something on my YouTube channel last week, and a few of you already took advantage of it. And I want to start something else where we're just connecting more with each other. We're just sharing our testimony, our experiences with one another, because I feel like there's so much power in our testimonies, and it's written that we will overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And Daniela's testimony is no exception. She shared it after I sent that message out. She wrote me the message, and she has an amazing journey. And I feel like it would just be so valuable for her to share that with everyone because no doubt she's not the first one to have gone through all of this. So, with all that being said, Daniela, how you doing?
I was saying, we all have different journeys and different paths, but I feel like right now the common trend is, that we've all been through some confusion or some deception of one kind or, another. So it's very clear for me that, what happens is when we start to realize that there's all these lies that we find, along the path and in basically everything now,
Mm-hmm.
we tend to open ourselves to unconventional knowledge and unconventional concepts and ideas that sometimes might actually turn out to be evil. And maybe at the time we don't think they're evil. We just think, oh, this is opposite to what I've been told, and now I know that I've been told a lie. So, you just sort of start embracing ideas that are, insidious and then start to nestle in you. So it becomes a very difficult journey if you start believing these things, right? And they plant doubt in you. So I mean, in my path, I've been through New Age, Buddhism, and the latest one was just flat out satanic, and I'm not proud about it, obviously, but it's something that has happened as I go along in all this, with my eyes covered, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So I was gonna say, so what did you grow up around, like any sort of type of Christianity? Or I know that you said that you're kind of from the area where I'm from too, and I know Roman Catholicism is real big on that side too. Were you brought up with any of that before?
I'm my parents were kind of hippie parents, so they were not. Their families were Catholic, but they were not Catholic. They were sort of into every single crazy cult that came around at that time. I mean,
Sure.
I've been through everything that there is,
Yeah.
but I actually did have some. I guess my first relationship with God was through my aunt, my great aunt, that was a nun, a Catholic nun. I did have my first communion, and so she was like my introduction to God. Really, she's really who inspired me to trust God and believe in
Hmm.
God as a child. So that was for me my rock, I guess,
Yeah.
and then with all the confusion of my parents and everything, I always had that ingrained in me as a child because of
Yeah.
my aunt. She gave me, the Catholic, teaching about God and Jesus and praying to God. I had my first communion. I went to Catholic school as a kid as well. So that was like my support
Hmm.
during confusing times. So I did have an introduction to Catholicism. later on, as I went on through all these different, belief systems that my parents tried, I did come across Christianity as well. The Pentecostal, evangelical. I forget. Like I went to several different, actually, Protestants. I
Right.
went through, different. My friends would invite me to their churches, basically, and I would, try it out. But it just never really fit for me. Going to church and having a priest or someone reading the Bible was just too daunting for me. I never understood the Bible reading it like that, and even like reading it with my aunt. I mean, when I was a little kid, of course, I got the little kiddie version. But then when you get the Bible, it's like, oh, this is too much. Like, I can't deal with this.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's hard sometimes because when we are just given this book and then they just say start reading it, and like most people think, well, I should start at the beginning, in Genesis. But I don't know, just as a new believer, I think for me it's nice to just start like in the Gospels and just find out like who Jesus is and what he did for us, and just go through the New Testament. And then I don't know, once you have like a little bit of understanding, like to kind of go back. Like now that I read the Old Testament, it's just like it's come to life, and just with this new understanding too.
Exactly. It makes a big difference just to read
Mhm.
it. It's so funny because I actually, before I was watching your channel, I was reading it like you say, just read it as it is in context and just
Mhm.
plainly as it's saying it. Don't try to mystify it and, come
Yeah.
up with hidden meanings and, crazy things like that, which is what you're told to do, or which is what, you know, your experience in churches, like the priest reads a piece out of context and then
Mhm.
elaborates on it, and
Yeah.
that's really not how it is. So I found that it's just a completely new experience just reading it as it is. It's like, well, duh, like it was right there.
Yeah, it's really crazy that like a lot of us hadn't picked up on that sooner, but I just
Yeah,
think that it wasn't time for us apparently, but now it's like urgent that yeah, you guys need to know this, and so it's like almost like staring you right in the face, and you have to like choose, okay, well, which way am I going to go now? And it's just
exactly.
it's forcing people to make a choice, I think, really.
It is.
So,
It really is. It's because, again, there's just so many paths right now. It's branched into, I mean, just Christianity. There's so many different branches of Christianity. And it's becoming confusing. It's becoming
mhm.
intimidating. It's, like you just don't know what to believe anymore. So, for me, just coming back to just my Bible and reading my Bible, it has been so grounding, so clear.
Yeah.
I don't need a teacher, I don't need a priest, I don't need a guru. I have my
Mhm.
Bible,
Yeah.
and that's all I can trust at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, no doubt. And so just to kind of get back to that, guru or teacher, you went through a few of these, and so you had kind of an upbringing of Catholicism, experimented a little bit with the uh, I guess what you would say like non-denominational, then some like denominational stuff. It didn't work for you. And so after that, is that when you got into the Buddhism, or was that later?
Yeah, Buddhism came later. Like I said, with my parents, I was just dragged along, through all kinds of weird things that I never really, they never pushed it on me. I never had to believe what they were doing, and they knew they were just trying things out. So it was just kind of like, I saw weird stuff. It was just like, for me, it was like, I don't want to do that, when I grow up, I don't want to be like that. So I, when I became grown up, I just sort of got lost in, your job, your career, your family. I didn't really have much, I guess you could say, I wasn't really searching for a spiritual path at that time. But then when I guess around my 30s, I just sort of started to feel like, like I have my family, I have a career, I have everything, and I'm still not happy. I feel empty,
Empty.
right? Like it's just not, this is not everything there is to life. There's got to be something else. So that's when I kind of started, researching, and I came across, the flat Earth theory, and I started to see all the, like different theories that are out there. That's like, oh wait, I've been lied. Like the governments and
Mhm.
history are telling lies. And I saw a few things about mud flood. I started to see buildings and, the Tartaria background of architecture that was just really intriguing to me. It was fascinating, and I just started to see more and more of it, and then you start to realize it's everywhere. It's just like all around us, and we've never even paid attention. We never wondered. And I mean, I remember having this discussion with my husband, and like, who built these buildings? And it's like, oh well, it's in history. If you look it up in Wikipedia, right? It's all there. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, but like, have you asked the question? Like, how is that possible that with horse and buggy, they were building these buildings that we can't even build today? I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy, right? So a lot of things started to just open my eyes. And I think that's when my, I guess, spiritual path started, when I just, thought, wait a minute, none of this is real. Right?
Yeah.
So I need to start, thinking like outside the box. And so yeah, I started with that, basically with Tartaria, mud flood. Uh,
Were you
and
just
I
coming
mean,
across this info like on social media, or how did it come across your plate to begin with?
well, the funniest thing, it was actually through my father.
Oh,
Yeah,
there
so
you
like,
go.
yeah, my dad's always been into, questioning things and all of that. And I always thought he was crazy. But, he threw it at me. He was like, well, like, answer me. Like, is there a real serious answer that's logical for all of this, right? I was like, no, I don't have an answer. Like, you're right. This is crazy, right? So that was like, that shook my whole ground. That was like, okay, you're right. I need to look into this,
Yeah.
right? So,
Right.
yeah. And then I just started diving in, and finding so many things. And it was just like, it became an obsession, right? Like, and I mean, there's just so many things we could go on for hours. I mean, the lands that we can't see, the things that they've hidden in the maps, and the history, the
Yeah.
real history that's hidden. It's just fascinating.
Yeah.
So
So your dad compelled you to, and then you just started looking into it. And so did you come across like, because I know that when we're trying to look at this information, it's always like you got the mainstream narrative. Did that ever like steer you off course at all, or did you kind of get past that?
I got past it really fast. I think
Okay.
that as soon as you start to see the history, that flaws really, because they are
Yeah.
so blatant. It's like we're stupid children and we're being told these dumb stories. So for me, just like mainstream media just became completely unreliable. I just don't trust it anymore. I can
Yeah.
I can pick at it very easily and just laugh at it. It's just
Yeah.
not. It's not for
Well,
me.
yeah, that the reason why I ask is because I know that some people say they'll come across an alternative viewpoint, and then they'll just type it up in Google, and then Google will tell them, "Oh no, that's not true." And they'll be like, "Oh, okay, that settles it." And that's all they need, right? And so it's just
Oh,
crazy that
right.
some people, that's all it takes for them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's because again, it does shake your ground. I mean, it's not easy to come to terms with the fact that you lived a lie and you believed it. And that,
Mhm.
how can you believe all of that, right? So, I mean, it is easy for you to tell yourself stories and justify the narrative, right? If you want to,
Mhm.
that's a path you can choose for sure. It's easier to believe Google and Chat GPT,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Well, that's the thing too, because I know that a lot of people use that and ask it questions. And I was talking to a buddy of mine
Yeah.
like last week. I was like, "Well, how do they know that it's telling them the truth? I mean, really,
Exactly.
they just trust it blindly that ChatGPT is telling them the absolute truth, and that's
I don't
dangerous
know.
too.
It is very dangerous. I've seen so many videos of people having conversations with ChatGPT and AI, and they're like, "Wow, like this is so amazing," and it's like, no, it's not. It's not. It's really very manipulative, and it's using your sort of your ideas to agree with you. It's very, yeah, I don't trust it at all.
Yeah,
It's telling people what they want to hear.
yeah. Yeah, and I was watching a video about it like last week too, and some people they seriously can't even function without using ChatGPT. There's a lady that she she couldn't even bake a cake without ChatGPT
Without,
whenever it literally has the instructions in the back. Like people have become that dependent on it.
wow. It is addictive for sure. I mean, it's something that's thinking for you, right? Which
Yes.
people want that. Most people, the masses prefer someone to think for them. They don't want to think for themselves. So it's definitely an easy way out.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. I want to just thank Angels and Demons, donated $20. So thank you. They said, great guest, Ricardo. Thanks as always for providing a safe place for lovers of our Lord Jesus Christ. Yes. Thank you so much. Um, yeah. So back to the topic. So your dad introduced you, you started looking into it, you didn't have an answer. Then what?
Well, I didn't have answers to anything. I just had questions to begin with. And I mean, when you think you come to an answer, sometimes you find that the answer was wrong, on the path as you keep going. Because I mean, nobody really knows an answer for all of these questions. We have theories, and it's impossible to prove them.
Hmm.
Sadly, we can't really dig proof, but we just have. I mean, there's been so many crazy theories about Tartaria that you have to question them as well, right? I mean, you have to question the whole narrative about Tartari as well. I mean, it all came out and it became a bit of a trend. So
Hmm.
there's been people that say that angels built those buildings, and
Hmm.
you know, people that have actually proved that no, it wasn't angels. There's piping systems. There's sewers. So how could it be cities of angels, right? Like,
Hmm.
there's just so many things that we don't know, that we're just scratching the surface. And but I mean, that's not a reason to just say, oh well, I don't know anything, and I'm not gonna investigate. Of course, I'm thirsty for truth. I just want to
Yeah.
know. I know I may not come to it, but at least I tried. At least
Yeah.
I'm getting closer. I feel like I'm seeing some clarity in this, and that just, it's like there is something deeper here that we
Oh
just
yeah.
we will know. I think hopefully our generation will learn about this truth. Hopefully it's our eyes get
Yeah.
to see the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that like I think I was telling you this before we came on that it was like right in front of us in the text this whole time, like all the architecture is right in front of us the whole time. And even before we came on air, I showed you some of that footage on the side
Yes.
of the buildings, and you just have iconography of Jesus on the sides of them too, which it's weird because they also have like other weird stuff, which makes it kind of confusing. So it's hard to say, well, did they put that on after, or we really don't know. But one thing we do know, like you said, is we can't recreate those things right now because I mean, I went to DC, and let me show you something real quick.
Yeah.
Now that so this is pretty cool. So I got this from DC, and this is basically like like what a granite,
Granite.
yeah, like and this is what everything's made from. It's just all
Oh
of this,
wow.
all the steps, all the pillars, everything. And it's crazy because they'll have some spots where it looks like the granite cracked and stuff, and they tried repairing it, and it looks awful. Like
Exactly.
they couldn't even match it, like not even close. And
No.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, you can see the refacings of these buildings. I am like
Mm,
fascinated. I always have to go into any church. I mean, right now I'm living in Mexico, and there's tons. Wherever I go, I have to walk into a church and just check out the dome, check out the altars, and all. You can see where they just cut everything flat out. They just cut it, and they just put it just looks very rudimentary, for such a beautiful building. And
yeah,
you just see an ugly wire just dangling from a hole, and it just nothing makes sense. Just,
yeah. Yeah, it doesn't. So I want to give another shout out, Post Apocalyptic J, $10, and they said, yes, I love to hear testimonies of people in our community. So this is awesome. Yeah,
awesome.
I think this is a great way for us to connect with each other. So yeah, not to interrupt, but go ahead and continue.
Yeah, so I mean, it's wherever you go, you can just walk into one of those buildings and see. I mean, the ones that have been cheaply remodeled is just so obvious. They cut all the tech. They just put cheap wire through and just a chandelier, and things that just don't really fit. It just looks ugly, and it's
It
like, no,
does.
that doesn't go well with this. It's not, you know, it's it's so obvious.
Yeah, it is. And so now that like you started looking into it, what was the next step after? Like, did you go to your dad and tell him like you're right or what?
Yeah, I mean, both of us he would share info with me, like channels and videos. I mean, it was pretty cool to have someone to talk about it. Of course, I mean, when you're lonely in this, everybody thinks you're crazy. You can't just talk to your friends about it. So my
Yeah.
friend was my dad. Basically, he would share stuff with me, and then we would be like, oh, and look at this, and I would take pictures of buildings like you were showing me. I would go and take video and be like, why is this here? Like, why? Just crazy things that
Hmm.
you come across, and it's like, what does this mean? So yeah, it was pretty fascinating. And yes, I mean, that led me to just, I guess, because I knew something important was in behind this. I was looking at the north, what Antarctica and all of that, those lands that are hidden and that we can't go into. And the I guess what pulled me to Buddhism really was the prophecy of Shambala, the battle for Shambala,
And
which
can you just I'll be honest, I don't know what that is. If you want to go ahead and just
elaborate on it. Yeah, sure.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, Shambhala is basically this sacred city where there's no evil, only, pure beings are, and it's where Mount Meru, which is this sacred, yeah, Rupes Negra, Mount Meru, the
Interesting.
same thing. That's where it sits in the middle, and there's these, cities around it that are basically full of purity, enlightenment, and knowledge. And so nobody can go there, right? So there will be a time, if if we're not in that time already, where evil will want it, will want to take it, and evil forces will want to invade these lands and take
That
control
is
of. Yeah, exactly, right. So it's
that's
so,
interesting.
yeah, it's a battle for protecting Shambhala. So this prophecy basically says that when that time comes, all beings from all different realms will come to protect it, including humans. So some humans will have that Shambhala calling. They will be Shambhala warriors and will participate in this battle to protect this sacred, land that, obviously when in Buddhism, when they tell you about Shambhala, it's not really here, but it is. It's just very confusing. In Buddhism, we offer Mount Meru to the Buddhas. Mount Meru is a precious location in this land, but then we don't have Mount Meru in vision. We don't know where it is. So it's definitely very, it goes hand in hand with this whole, land that we're finding with Rupes Negra and all of that in the maps. It is here. We just can't go there.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's what called my heart really into, digging that root. And of course it's in Buddhism. So I became a Buddhist.
Yeah.
For
how long was that for that you were Buddhist?
Oh, it was several years. It's probably been like about 7 or 8 years that I've been in Buddhism. I've taken all kinds of teachings and I've been in retreats. I've had my teacher, my guru. And yeah, I went down the path that's the thing, I committed to it pretty full on because, again, I just felt like there was something there. And so I researched all of this through them. But again, there's a lot of occult stuff and confusion as well, because again, the whole thing about Shambhala is just sort of, not really straight up in the end, because it's just like, oh, it's in another dimension, or it's, there can be a lot of confusion, but it's not there. It's not physically here. So,
What's interesting about that too is I feel like that's almost similar to what we're saying, but it's just different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because what we would say is, yeah, there's this place called the Camp of the Saints, and they're going to surround it, but God's going to protect them. Like that's I basically heard that story with what you're saying, but just in a different light or whatever. So it's like even they, like all the world religions, know that there's going to be this one event there at the end that's going to happen, I guess,
There is, yeah, exactly. And actually
That's
a lot of
interesting.
teachers, a lot of the Buddhist teachers are actually teaching about Shambhala right now because of that, because it's feeling like, in the context of Buddhism, it's like we are in a dark era, and then they have the golden era, narrative, which it's supposed to happen after the battle for Shambhala. There will be a golden era. So it's being introduced, and again through New Age as well. There's the golden era and all this, the fifth dimension, and all of these terms, right? So there is a lot of confusion for sure. They're using this narrative in many different ways, and it's actually I've seen it in some movies where it's just like, wow, it's right there in the movie. They're showing it to you, that battle. And yeah, you can call it the Battle of Shambhala, or you can call it, the Camp of the Saints. It's literally the same.
Gog or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's that same narrative with a different twist, I guess, a different flavor.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I don't know a whole lot about Buddhism really, but what were you guys practicing where you said it was like a lot of occultic stuff or whatever in there?
Yeah, it's there's different branches for Buddhism and different types of Buddhism,
But yours
but
specifically was a Tibetan. So
the Tibetan
what
Buddhism.
yeah, so what is the Tibetan Buddhism?
Well, again, in Tibetan Buddhism, you can stay out of Tantra, but I went into Tantra, and Tantra is, in my opinion, demonic. It is very Tantra, yeah.
Tantra.
So they actually avoid calling it Tantra. It's now called Vajrayana, because Tantra had the fame of being dark magic, and so they wanted to change the name because people didn't want to touch Tantra anymore, because Tantra is evil. But it's the same flavor really, because you are dealing with different deities, and you are performing rituals and praying to them and making offerings, and things that when you're in it you're like, oh yeah, this is great, but then it just doesn't seem, it doesn't feel right. Like when you look at them, I mean, you're not even allowed to show the images to other people that are not in the teachings. So the images are demonic. I mean, you can look up wrathful deities in Buddhism and you will see them, and they're not pretty. They're
Hmm.
they're demonic. They're demons. But when you're there, they give you explanations for the demonic looks and what they mean and its symbology and this and that. But I mean, in the end, it's not right. You're offering representations of blood, representations of body parts,
Ooh.
things. Yes, it gets pretty dark. So, it's something that you're like questioning constantly.
Yeah. So when you were doing all this, did you guys ever witness any signs or anything like that?
Uh, I didn't witness any signs. I went to a retreat with a very famous teacher, and I'll just tell you, like it's something that I opened my eyes. Basically, it was a beautiful retreat in the context of Buddhism, and being with a teacher, and for me it was like an amazing opportunity. But at the end of the retreat, we had a party. It was like a party to end the retreat, and just with costumes and everything. And in that party, I just saw everybody become demonic. Everybody started drinking, and it was a rave.
Like they were manifesting evil?
Yes, yes, a lot of people dressed like these deities and were acting like them. And it was like, this is not what I thought. This is not what I was searching for. Just me, I was really disappointed and destroyed to
Hmm.
see people acting like that, and literally like animals. And it was not
Not
nice
right.
to see. Yeah, it was very disappointing. And the teacher was there too, so it was just like, I don't think this is for me. you know
Was that your
as
last was that your last time basically?
It was. I actually had signed up for another one, because I. That's the thing. You become addicted to these retreats and these teachings, because you think, oh, I'm going to. If I learn more, I'm going to understand more. If I go to this one, then I'll understand this, and then I'll have this ability, and all these crazy things. So yeah, I was already signed up for another one. Actually, in the States, I was going to go and spend 2 weeks, and it was about Shambala as well, and some empowerments and things that were really important to me. But after that, I couldn't do it. I couldn't go. I canceled, and I was really torn inside. Like it was really hard for me to let go of this and come to terms with the fact that it is not what I thought it would be. Right. So I mean,
Yeah.
I was in this sort of devastated state, and then I came across this other cult that I mentioned in my
Yeah.
letter, that actually was saying that Buddhism is demonic. So there you go. You find another. Oh well, this says what I think it is, right? So then you go, okay, this sounds true, and then I clung to that as well. That was like my next sort of setback, where
Right.
I just, yeah, it's um, it's like the Gnostic belief. I don't know if it's not very popular, but I feel like it will become popular, because I've actually seen there's a channel, a flat Earth channel, that has a lot of truthers following him. Like, I don't want to mention his name, but he's published a book about this stuff, and he's into it, and he's sort
Yeah.
of preaching it. So
Does
it's
he
a
does he live outside of the United States?
No, I think he's in the States.
Okay, then I was
Um,
thinking of someone else, and it's okay. We don't need to
yeah.
give him any cred.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you come across it, you'll know, right?
Yeah,
It's a flat. It's one of the biggest flat Earth channels, and he started sort of making videos about it when I was in it. So that's why I know he's into it, right? And I
right.
did comment and try to steer him away, but he already published his book, so it's
Yeah,
a bit late for that. But I just feel like some other people will definitely fall prey to that because it's it's another tricky path that just preys on that, what I was saying at the beginning, that openness that we all have to search for truth.
yeah. And so was that the basically the new age thing that you're talking about, or is it the other? Because what was next after the Buddhism?
Buddhism, it was that actually.
It was that. Okay.
Yeah, my new age was sort of not really. I was not really in new age, but I was always a little new agey because of my parents. So I always, meditation and the chakras and all of that. I was always like Reiki and all that stuff. I was open to it, but I didn't actually practice new age because it's very woo woo for me. It didn't really, like I do believe in energy and things like that. And I went to like natural doctors and therapies and stuff. I'm open to it, but I didn't really fall into that whole fifth dimension stuff that started happening.
Right.
So I wasn't really like a new age or full on. I was more like, Buddhism, meditation. The there's a lot that new age takes from Buddhism for sure.
Hmm.
So, the mandalas and
Right.
all of that stuff. I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand. I guess if you are in one, you can kind of jump into the other.
Right. So is that the same as what you were talking about, what you got into like in Spain and South America, or is that something different?
So yeah, that's the cult I was mentioning,
Okay.
that Gnostic cult. Yeah, the I guess the head person that started talking about it is from Spain. So she made a group in Spain, and then she has another person in South America, and we would just go on like these talks about these Gnostic books that she shared in her channel to that you have to read. Basically, it's it's just flat out crazy stuff that you have to intake all this information in the hopes that you're purifying. And when you're pure, you will understand it.
That's
So,
interesting. So it's like
yeah. So,
almost
like,
never attaining in a sense.
well, and then I feel like there's a lot of like lying to yourself because you want to be pure, right? So,
On your own accord.
exactly, right? Like then you're like, oh well, this sounds right, and so you read these books. You're supposed to read these books forever, over and over, and you can't question them because you're not pure. So like, how are you supposed to know?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And what were some of the practices like that they were doing that you just were like, "Oh, that's kind of not cool." Kind of.
Well, that part, like the reading of the books, for example, they are huge books. They're massive. They're just these like. I think I got to the almost the last book when I was reading. I read all of them. We would read them, and then we would have these Zoom calls to discuss what we read and
Mhm.
talk about it. It seemed fine at the beginning, like it was pretty normal. Most of the people that were there were new agers, were people that were coming out of new age. So
Yeah.
it was, it was interesting to see everybody just sort of joining this at the beginning. It was mostly new age people
Mhm.
and Buddhists like myself, because there was a lot of attack on Buddhism, and so you think, well, then this guy knew about Buddhism, and so you're reading the books, and it's just, well, to begin, let's just say, like this is flat. Like the start is that Hitler, for example. it was a very important and almost a divinity,
Mm.
right? So that's like the first idea out there that you'll be like, what? You know, like that's crazy.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of information coming out reinforcing this idea that actually Hitler was not a bad guy, and that there's all these documentaries that I watched and that show that he actually didn't want the war and all this stuff. So then there's the occult that supposedly the Nazis were practicing, which is based on these books.
Hmm.
So pretty crazy stuff. It's just like, now I'm like, wow, I don't know what I was thinking. But I mean, at that time, I read all of it. I just ate it, you know? And I was really, you know, believing a lot of it, to the point where, like, again, you get to the more unconventional information that's again coming out, not just through Gnosticism, but it will come out through other paths because I've seen it,
Hmm.
where you start to think that Lucifer is actually the good guy,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
he was sharing knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So it's crazy. I mean, it's pretty wild.
Yeah. That's, I've looked up a little into that, and from what I gathered, they kind of switched the roles. Like God was trying to hide the knowledge, but the serpent, he's the one that was trying to tell you the truth, and God was the
Exactly.
one that was trying to hold it back from you, and he's the one that actually showed you the truth.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
God has you trapped in this universe, and God is a demiurge. He's not really a god. That's what they say. He's this sort of like inferior to God, and he created this because it was just for fun, I guess. Like it's just crazy.
So my question, what is, because you probably know better than me, what is their solution even for all of this? Just
There's no solution in the end. That's the thing. I read all the books. I got to the end, and there was no solution. Imagine you invested all these hours, all this time, all these talks in money, because they were all about money too. They were collecting money for every
yeah.
Zoom call, and in the end, there's no answer. In the end, you just end up with this completely shattered view of the world. You end up hating reality. You end up almost wanting to kill yourself, which is,
Wow.
yeah, it's horrible. It's like you are trapped in hell,
It's
and God,
depressing.
it's horrible, and God hates you, and it's just all these horrible things. So it's just like in the end, you're depressed, you're more confused than when you started, and nothing makes sense, right? And then in the end, you're just like, what is going on? And then the lady that was doing the group calls started going bonkers. She went cuckoo, started like writing messages saying that she was gonna kill herself, and you just like, what is going on here? So you start to see like the way the people act, the people that are in these groups act, and you're just like, okay, there's something wrong here, and I don't think this is gonna take me anywhere good.
It's I think that it's of the Lord. It's you went in all of that, and then it's like you didn't just like dive head first. It's like you were searching, and then you're like, yeah, I don't know about all of that. And it's just
Well,
like, because some people
exactly.
get hooked into it.
Yeah, I have a friend that stayed there, and she doesn't want to talk about it anymore, and she's just in it. Even after everything that happened, she does not want to get out of it. She's there. That's it. And it's really sad. But it traps people for sure. I, I went in, I committed to reading the books, but I was being a little bit cautious because after, Buddhism, I was like, I can't trust anything, but I'm going to give this a shot. I'll read it, I'll do everything. And I did. But in the end, it was just like, this is just satanic. It's just satanic. I can't name it any other way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably the perfect word for it. So,
Yeah.
so after you realize, yeah, this is satanic, did you So you weren't living over there, were you?
No, no, no. No, it was like a
Okay.
long distance, and we do have some friends here that are in that sort of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So after all that, what happened?
Well, I threw away the books right away. I mean,
Good.
I was like, this is not good. My mom was in it too, and I had to talk to her, and I was just like, Mom, this is not good. Like, this
So
is not good.
it's like your parents and you, were you guys all going through this together or something? And
My mom, just my mom, because my mom and my dad are separated. But yeah, this was like my mom that showed me the books and introduced me to it because a friend of hers, and you know how it works, kind of
yeah.
thing. Like so,
Hmm.
so yeah. I mean, after I read the books, I was just like, Mom, you need to stop reading this stuff. Like, it's not, it's bad, you know.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I threw away the books. I was like, I don't want anything to do with this woman. I am out of this. And I, I'm going to, I took a bit of a break,
Hmm.
from everything. I was just like, I don't believe anything anymore. I am just so fed up with the lies. And then you just start to feel like, okay, this is just crazy,
Hmm.
you know? And yeah,
Was it
I
all
had some.
discouraging for you?
It was very, very discouraging. Exactly. And then you start to feel like you can't even trust yourself. And I mean, even my husband was like, oh, like, now what? Like, you're going to try something new, like, whatever. And it was just like, you feel stupid,
Hmm.
you feel fooled. And then you can't trust even yourself anymore at that point. So I can't trust my judgment. Imagine
Yeah.
that. Like, how did I go there? How did I dare? That's
Yeah.
when you start to, everything falls down for sure.
And I think that's the problem when, we don't have like a firm rooted foundation. Like the word of God, it says that if you don't, you can be tossed to and fro with every wind of doctrine. So it's just like, oh yeah, that sounds cool, or that sounds nice. And it's just,
Yes,
when you're grounded in the word of God, it's like it kind of keeps you in line. It kind of keeps you on the path.
exactly. Which is the way I feel now. I don't feel like a leaf in the wind anymore. You
Praise God.
know, exactly. It's changed my life. I that's all I can say. It's just now I don't feel that uncertainty and doubt and confusion
Hmm.
and that thirst that I was never able to quench
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. Yeah, and now we have the fountains of living waters. So
Yeah,
it's satisfying.
it is, definitely is. I mean, and it's so, I mean, it's hard to describe, but at this point in time when everything around you is just falling apart, it's a rock. It's my rock, really.
Amen. Yeah.
Amen.
So after you left the Luciferian cult, how long before you kind of started coming across the little season, and when did that kind of make sense or click to you?
It probably waited. It was probably like a few months where I was just cleansing my life, basically. I was just
Mhm.
going through everything because I had so many books and so many things that were just bringing back these memories and this disgust. I was just like, I need to get all of this out of my house,
Mhm.
statues, images, and all of that. And then I actually started watching a channel that was talking a lot about the little season. So I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And so I started watching his videos, and it's like, okay, this actually sounds logical. It is the little season. Like, this is what I'm living in right now. It's
So it didn't even take that much for you to just be like, "Oh yeah, that's it."
no, it didn't, because I mean, when you see that the devil is openly being worshipped, right? That's when you know. That's when you know that it's right there, and that's where you are because you can't hold on to anything, right?
Mhm.
So it's crazy, and yeah, that's it. So I was like, okay, this is wild. Then from there, I honestly, like, again, I had this like aversion for reading the Bible, right? So I was just like,
Right.
like, the Bible is like, no. But through him, like he was reading the Bible and he was like reading it like kind of like that, like just simply, not searching too much around it, not taking it out of context. He did have some things though, like later that I found that were confusing because he's thinking about the apocalypse
And I'm
as
sorry,
it
who is this again that you're speaking of? Sorry.
Jay Dreamers.
Jay
I don't know
Dreamers.
if Jay Dreamers. Yeah, it's like his channel's very like wide on many different theories. So he does read the Bible,
Okay.
but he uses a lot of like Hebrew translation and you had a video just recently talking about how the the things that Jesus is describing as the apocalypse is to his followers, not to us, right? And
Yeah.
that completely made sense to me.
Right.
So the way he says it is like Jesus was speaking to our generation, which I disagree with. I agree with you definitely that it was for them, not for us, and that already happened. So but again, I sort of started there, and then I started following a channel that he recommended, which was Leaving Babylon.
Oh yeah.
And then
Babylon.
she shared your videos. And so I'm just sort of like connecting the dots, going from here. So
Yeah.
then you start to see, okay, this makes sense. This doesn't make sense anymore. I'm going to focus on this. And yeah, that's basically what started to make sense for me. It's that actually, yeah, that's not the way to read the Bible. And then so I went and got my Geneva Bible and I'm reading it
Awesome.
and yeah, it's changed my life for sure.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I think it's done the same for each and every one of us because I think a lot of us have had questions. We've just wondered about so many things that, like you said, we've been lied to about so much. And then when you just come across this information, it's just like, yeah, that's what makes the most sense. Like we don't have to rely on all these pastors with their private interpretations and how to
Exactly.
dance around what Jesus actually said. And I believe that there's power in that message because we actually believe him, and they're finding out reasons to not believe him.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I I was wondering what was it for you, I guess. So like you're looking into all of this, you're like, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense and all this, but what was the nail in the coffin for you, do you think?
Oh, there's just like I said, there's just so many.
Mhm.
Well, I think the nail in the coffin was that video that Leaving Babylon made about the land of Jesus.
Yeah.
That was like a rain for me of whoa, like that changed everything. Right there was like it's right there. It's so close.
Yeah.
So I think that was the nail in the coffin for me. That was like my big shower
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. So, just out of curiosity, how long ago was it that this was introduced to you?
That video was not actually that long ago. It was a few months ago. It
Yeah.
was just, yeah. I mean, I was already reading the Bible and I was already researching other
Mhm.
things, but that was just like, that just made my heart
Hit home.
stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just pieced so many things that I hadn't pieced before, that I just had a wider view of things. And at the same time, it was like everything makes sense now, I mean, even all the stuff I went through, all the confusion, I don't think I would have gotten here if it wasn't for that,
Yeah. I
right?
know. Yeah, and I don't know if you had seen, I had wrote a post a couple weeks ago now, but we're all kind of the same, we're interested in, conspiracies, and they kind of get get our mind rolling, and we're like, oh yeah, this is that, this is evil, and you're kind of figuring everything out. But at the end of the day, it's like I was searching through all of this, and I got to the bottom of the rabbit hole and I found Jesus. That was my conclusion.
Yes, I
He
saw
he was
that.
he was still there, you know what I mean? And that to me is just like, wow.
That is
Yes,
so
Lord.
true.
Yes,
That
Lord.
is so true. Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly my thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's an awesome feeling. And once you realize that, I think, because in this whole process too, it's been super humbling for me. So I used to be so prideful because I just thought, oh yeah, I'm so smart. Like like, and I wouldn't say that to anyone, but you just like you look at someone in a different way, like you're above them rather than having compassion, and you're just like, yeah, you're really deceived. Like, and like with
Yeah,
this understanding, you realize like, wow, like, yeah, we are living in the time of deception. So I think for all of us, it just causes us to be patient more and to have more understanding and compassion, just knowing, it wasn't easy to get to this point. I mean, this didn't happen overnight. This is like, you know 20-15 years of my Christian life that's been an absolute journey, and it's finally got to this point. So I think that's another misconception that people have, like, oh yeah, this came up out of nowhere. It's just like, no, I think just now is the time for us to know it.
exactly. It's a journey, and I think everybody has a different journey. And so, yeah, it's just some people get more dirty than others.
Yeah.
But we sometimes we have to
Hmm.
come to that conclusion that we need Jesus and we need God in our lives, and we need to listen to them, and we can't ignore what they left for us.
Yeah.
It's there for a reason. It was left for us to follow, and we had it in front of our nose the whole time, and we just, we were deterred, or I guess intimidated to look at it,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's always something to deter us one way or another. But it's interesting because, have you ever seen the movie The Truman Show?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of interesting concepts in there too. I had never seen it, but he had mentioned in there, like, well, why do you think that Truman hasn't figured it out yet? He was already 30 years old, and he said, well, people just accept the reality that was given to them. And I was like, yeah, yeah, that's pretty true. That's
It's
pretty
true.
true. Hmm.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. We are in the Truman Show for sure. That movie is hits home. Like every time I watch it, I'm like, wow, there's
Yeah.
definitely lots of truth in there.
Yeah, and the fact that, we act like all this major surveillance stuff has barely started coming out, but it's like that was like in 1998, and they were like observing
Yes.
every single aspect of his life and stuff. So
Big
I
Brother. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, definitely. It's interesting for sure. But another thing he said too, which is so true, is that no matter, like, if we're actually searching for the truth, there's nothing that they can do to stop us from it. Like, he said that in that movie too. And ultimately, like I said, if that's Jesus, because like it just led back to him. Nothing's gonna stop anyone from getting getting here if they really want to. It's just we have to, when we feel uncomfortable, when we have this cognitive dissonance, are we gonna back up, or are we just gonna, like, head down, press forward, hand on the plow, and keep going? So it's just like, that's a difference. Like, are you going to keep plowing through it, or are you going to back off? Cause it's like, oh, that's kind of,
Exactly.
that's kind of how I felt with the whole Tartaria thing. I was like scared to look into it, cause I just didn't know like where it fit. I'm just being honest. It's just, and you started looking into that a lot before I did. Like, you were looking into that
Yeah.
a long time ago,
Years
weren't you?
ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
about 8 years ago.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
and I had no clue. I had just barely found out about that maybe 2 years ago.
Well,
So,
but at the same time, I mean, that's when this other part of the puzzle came out, actually. It started to
mhm,
come out just now. Because back then, again, it was all weird theories, and, it took a long time to piece those connections, connect Tartaria to Jesus. Like, that was unheard of back then,
yeah.
and now it's like, I don't know. It's just like it's meant to advance, I guess. I hope, like I said, I hope we see the day when this is all cleared for us.
Mhm. See, and I've even, from the first time I looked at it, my mind has changed a little bit too, because I made a video when I was breaking down Gunnar Heinsohn's presentation, and I was like, no, this is actually, they're saying it's Tartaria, but it's all Rome. And then I'm like, okay, so I need to backtrack a little bit, because that's kind of just more of a broad blanket statement. And I would say that, yeah, Tartaria was a real place and Rome was a real place too. But I was like saying, well, no, they're just trying to hide that this was the fourth beast or whatever. But then you start seeing it on the maps. And then we had an episode with my co-host, and he brought this information to us, and it was talking about like Tartaria was a Christian nation and all kinds of stuff.
I'm
And
actually
it was just
watching
like
it.
blew my
Yeah.
mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm watching that video in pieces because it's a long one, and yeah, I'm going through
Mhm.
the writing about it, and it's fascinating. It's just like, wow.
Yeah. So my mind has changed about that too. I think that the problem with these people who are, exposing the lies about Tartaria is they're leaving out the very most important part of it all. And
Exactly.
that's where I have to separate from them. That's why even I've so like I used to be real big on flat earth and all that, but even now I've just separated myself from all those people, because yeah, they're talking and exposing NASA and all the lies, but they never even mention Jesus. They never talk about the Lord. They never anything. It's like,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, it's very superficial. I agree with you. I actually stopped that as well because it's just, okay, we're exposing what the government's doing, we're exposing the media, and it's just more of the same, and it's just
Mhm.
feeding that anger and that negativity and that feeling of helplessness,
Mhm.
really. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's that path that is very easy to fall in through YouTube specifically because they feed that so much.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this may be a funny question, but like, your dad introduced you to Tartaria and stuff like that. Have you talked to him about the little season or anything like that yet, or no?
No, unfortunately,
Not yet.
he's Buddhist, so he took it pretty hardly that I left.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. So it's been tough, but yeah, he doesn't want to talk about anything. If I'm out of Buddhism, it's just like we don't have
So
we're not.
he cut ties. Um,
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
yeah.
I didn't mean to open up
No, that's
any.
okay.
Yeah.
No worries.
I mean, that's just a sad reality about it. We
It
just keep
is. It is.
I mean, just keep praying for them, and that's all we can do, because one thing that I've learned is like, and in the past, I'm like, I will convince you with this and that, and I'm like, yeah, I just,
No,
you
no,
know,
and actually, Jesus says not to do that. So
yeah,
I totally understand that. We need to respect everybody's path, and
yeah,
everybody has a different understanding, and everyone will or will not come to an understanding. So we need to accept that. And it's tough. It's very lonely sometimes,
hmm,
but it's part of the path is respecting
yeah.
for sure.
And I think that's kind of the hardest part, which I think it's good that we all get together and we just kind of have these conversations, because it does feel a little bit lonely, because even, a lot of our spouses and stuff may not even be on the same page, and that could be kind of difficult too. So, I think this is
Yeah.
just a good way where we can just kind of just have some more fellowship with one another and just share our experiences.
Exactly. Like we're not alone. We're
Yeah,
just spread. We're
we're
spread
spread
all
out.
over, but we're not alone. It's just we feel lonely, but it's like I don't know, like I like to think of it of those seeds that were spread, just growing in different places and it's that's what we are, seeds that are just
Yeah,
spread.
yeah, yeah, and anything else that we try to like do other than like I would say like what the word of God says and stuff. We're just basically going off of our own understanding. Like I think that's how we get deceived and stuff like that too, because we're, well, yeah, this looks good or it makes sense to me, and it's just, you know what I mean? And that kind of steers us off. And I know that even like in the new age they claim like that's like the light, like they're enlightened and all of this, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
and you're very right. When you say
mhm,
you've been humbled, I think that is the first step, is becoming
mhm,
humble. Because if we're not humble, then we trust our ego, we
mhm,
trust ourselves, which we are flawed. We need to accept that we're flawed, and that's being humble, is that I don't know. I've made so many mistakes. I cannot know, right? So
mhm.
I can't, and again, I can't make good judgments because I've made so many mistakes, right? So I have to understand that, I don't know everything. I am not an enlightened or awakened, or, all these terms that we come across that are like, oh, that feels good. I'm gonna say I'm awake. I'm gonna say I'm, a star seed. I'm this.
Oh yeah,
All these things. It's ego. It's
yeah.
literally appealing to your ego and your pride, not
Mhm.
not coming from a good place.
Yeah, and it's written that God actually resists the proud. So he resists the proud, but he gives grace unto the humble. And so when I think of that resist, just think a police officer, he's trying to arrest someone and they're resisting arrest. They're trying to get away. Like God, that's how God feels to a proud man. He doesn't want anything to do with you. He's resisting you.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's that other part that we were saying about convincing others, is it's
Hmm.
that pride, right? That you cannot, they are resisting. And so you can't invite someone that thinks they already know,
Hmm.
someone that already thinks that they're awake. You
Yeah.
can't, right?
Yeah, and a lot of these teachers too, which I'm sure, I mean, you could relate, where did they ever think that like they were way up here and you were just this lowly? Yeah, so I mean, even the Lord said that he who is greatest among you, let him be your servant. So
Yes.
they don't even have the servant's mentality at all,
No, no,
a lot of them.
exactly. They are considered precious and they have to be worshipped. You
They're like
have to,
gods.
yes, you have to bow down. You actually have to do prostrations and all
Oh
kinds
wow.
of, yeah. So you are below, you're lowly. Everything they
Mhm.
say is true, and you just shut up about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's sad because that's not even only in Buddhism, that's in these mega churches. That's, I mean, they all but worship them
Yeah.
pretty much. And it's like you listen to what I say, and it's just like don't question the pastor. You start questioning the pastor, you end up like us and you get kicked out of the church
Pretty
or
much.
whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You have to kiss their hand. You have to, bow down. And it's all
Hmm.
this, yeah, it's behaviors that we've been taught that we don't question. But it's
Right.
true. It's that layer of that pyramid, really.
Yeah. So what else has been like new for you since you like come to this understanding, like kind of, because I know that for me, like, yeah, like I told you, like a lot of has changed. It's just like it's been like God basically bringing me down to like nothing and showing me like, yeah, you're not as smart as you think you are, bro. So just like kind
Exactly.
of kind of that thing, you know? So
Exactly. That like smack in the face. I honestly, that's where I am right now, and I actually am.
mhm,
I'm pacing myself because I feel like I'm just right now. I'm just digesting my Bible.
mhm,
I am. I'm coming across some information, that I am definitely considering, and I'm researching. I'm getting other books. You suggested the book of Josephus.
oh yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to check that one out. And the I just ordered I think it's called the Septium version of
Mhm.
the Bible.
Septuagint, maybe?
Septuagint. Yes, sorry,
Okay.
that one. Septuagint.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm looking into that. But that's the thing. I'm just staying close to the Bible.
Yeah.
I don't want to I don't want to travel again into another rabbit hole that stays away from that. So that's my sort of like my route and my guide.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's going to take me some time for sure to
Yeah.
figure it all out. But yeah, I'm not venturing far from that.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't think that anyone could go wrong if they just pay attention to the Bible, just read it and let that be your guide. Like I know that is not bad advice.
Exactly. I'm staying with what's safe right now because I don't want to venture because of all the things that I've gone through that I don't want to do that. I'm sticking to that,
Hmm.
and I'm trusting that God and Jesus will guide me and take me on the right path and open my eyes really as I go.
Yeah. And I think that he is going to be guiding all of us. There's going to be more revelations to come, I'm sure. Um, yeah, we just got to stay humble, keep seeking him. And honestly, just I think stay in communion and fellowship with one another because we can all kind of learn from one another, feed off of each other, and stuff like that. And just let the Lord's spirit move
Through
within.
us.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Throw ideas, amongst us and just see what comes out. I mean,
Yeah.
another part that's really fascinating to me is the aurora, the aurora borealis and all of that. So
Hmm.
that's also pretty cool.
What have you
So
looked into
yes.
about that?
Well, it's again, I'm coming through hints of it, but I always had a feeling that there's something behind that.
Hmm.
Like there's always been, the scientific explanation just doesn't make sense. It's really
Yeah.
foolish, and so there's something there that I know has something to do with the kingdom of God, and so I've come across it in a couple of videos, and it's like just like oh, I thought that, like that's you know, it
Yeah.
sounds it sounds like something that is probably true. I don't know. I have a feeling anyway that we're going to be seeing more signs and more things,
Hmm.
and maybe we just need to be, on the lookout.
Yeah. I I've been fascinated with the North for sure since I started looking into that. And then once, like you said, Madeline's info came across the table, it made it a lot more real if you know what I mean. Because you're like you were saying,
Yes.
it's like just right there pretty much. And so like at that point, my question along with everyone else is just like, well, where like how did they do that? How did they get that off the map and stuff? And then also it's just it's fascinating to think that it could just be like right there.
Yeah, it's been staring us in the face, but we just I don't know. Again, I guess we needed someone to say point there,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And I guess that's how it works. It's just like throwing that little
Seed.
crumb. Yeah, and just and then you can look there, and then start to see other things. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's sorry, my
Yeah.
dogs are whining
It's
and
okay.
snorting.
It's okay. But yeah, I mean, like I said, if we just keep reading the word of God and comparing that's one thing, you know, because we've just been completely like we're living in like a psychological operation right now completely. And so I think that yeah, we use our senses to a certain extent, but we can't trust them fully, even now with all the AI, even with all the deep fakes and everything like that. You know, it's hard for anyone to even trust their eyes here in this moment now. And so like when we're reading the word of God and say it's describing like Israel or Mount Zion or anything like that, all I've done is just compare what they're saying in the Middle East to what the word of God says, and then all I had to do is just like, yeah, that doesn't even match up. So that's how I kind of just, you know, threw it out the window. And I don't think that that true land is here for us to access right now. It's kind of the like the Buddhist folklore or whatever, you know, they're talking about, or it's like what's the other one? The Hyperboreans
Hyperborea, yeah.
or whatever, you know. So you got all these legends that are talking about all of this.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's and that's the thing, it's more confusion, right? It's just throwing you truth entangled with lies, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, it's
It
just
muddies
very,
the water.
it does. It
Yeah.
does. That's also why I'm just like, okay, well, there's something there, definitely, but you have to stick to the Bible and what the Bible's saying about it, and just, trust that it will be revealed at some point, but
Hmm.
not when you want it to be,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a great conversation so far, and I'm glad that we were able to connect this way. And I want to kind of keep these episodes probably around 90 minutes or so. So we're getting up until that point, but it's just been a great discussion so far. And for anyone else who is interested, who wants to come on here and let's just have a discussion, talk about your testimony, you can email me at questionthenarrative@yahoo.com and just send that over and I'll read through it. And yeah, maybe we could get together with you as well. Just let me know. But is there anything else that you'd like to say in closing?
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you so much. I was very nervous at the beginning. I'm sorry, and
Yeah, I know.
I've never been on YouTube or anything, so it's like,
I know.
yeah. But
It
it's been a
wasn't
great
that bad, was it?
conversation. No, it wasn't actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I try to make it easy on you.
yeah, you did. Thank you so much. And
Oh, no
yeah,
problem.
this is a very good idea, because I think we all need to, hear each other out, and connect, with
Mhm.
one another, and just, we're here for each other, and yeah, just keep going.
Awesome. Well, we'll just close off right there, guys. And I appreciate all who gave super chats and all who were listening. And we love you all and God bless. Bye bye.